He lied to me, ethic. He embezzled from my company, ethics. All complaining about other people's behavior is ethics. We talk about it all the time. All the complaints on Facebook, on blogging about the government, ethics, all of it. So it's really the subject of my time. So we, yoga teachers, can help with this. And if we don't, who is? We have the ear of people. People actually pay money to come and sit with us or stand with us or move with us for an hour and a half a day. Who else do they do that with? I was telling some students this the other day. We know our students in a way better than their husbands or wives. Because what husband or wife stands and watches and witnesses their husband or wife move and breathe and meditate for an hour and a half a day. I would like to meet that husband or wife. Who has time to do that? Say, okay, honey, it's your turn now. I'm going to watch you for an hour and a half. And then you watch me for an hour and a half. That's 3 hours. Now I'm going to go watch the kids. Not practical. But we do. We get to see people change day after day, hour after hour, year after year, and become new beings in a way. We can tell when people are getting sick, when they might have a heart issue. I've told people, you need to go to the doctor right now. Husband or wife didn't tell them that this morning, because they're not watching them for an hour, hour and a half. So we have a special place in society. People actually want to hear what we have to say. So what are you going to say? Those of you who teach workshops, like here at the Midwest Yoga Conference, we're invited, let's say, to teach 3 or 4 workshops. And basically the invitation is, what would you like to teach? That's an amazing question to think about. What a privilege. If you could say anything you wanted to a group of people for 2 hours, what would it be? Well, I think all yoga teachers have this opportunity. I want to give you a couple of interesting examples. I mentioned all these agencies where yoga is being practiced. Like my favorite is the CIA. I don't know why. I think there could be a comedy series on that. I think so. Yeah. So let's talk about people who are in power, running corporations or government agencies, practicing yoga. When a student, any student, poor or rich, any race, any age, when they walk into a yoga class, especially from the city, they're spinning. The mind is spinning. That's what I call it. Patanjali calls it fluctuations of the mind. You know what I'm talking about. You step into the yoga class, you have one foot in the yoga class and the other foot in phone calls, child care, jobs, traffic, pain at the front desk, forgetting your credit card. All kinds of things happen just before you walk into the yoga class. So oftentimes the student is very stressed. The student is even perhaps in a very negative state. We ask them to sit down and meditate. This can be a mistake sometimes. I always have my students meditate at the end. Otherwise, sometimes people just feel like they've been given a timeout. Right? You just sit there and be quiet and close your eyes. That's right, close your eyes. Close them. Doesn't it feel like that as a yoga teacher sometimes? Remember when you were a child and you would go out in the park or your front lawn and you take your arms and you spin around. Those of you who have kids probably saw this recently. Your children are doing it. We spin and we spin and we spin, getting dizzier and dizzier. And the game goes like this. You spin as fast as you can, as long as you can, which is about 30 seconds, until you fall, laughing. You land flat on your back, and then you watch your house go around. Remember? Some of you did this recently. It's early dabbling in hallucinogenics. But it's very interesting because I remember this vividly. You lie there and the house slows down. It gradually slows down and comes to a stop. And if you haven't thrown up from nausea, from spinning, what happens is your mind goes back to a still state. This is what it reminds me of in yoga. We come from our car, from our job, from children, from stress. Our mind is spinning. And we practice for an hour, hour and 15 minutes, and it starts to slow down, especially from the breathing that we do. And then at the end of class, when your teacher says, okay, let's sit in meditation, it can actually slow down to a stop. When the mind becomes quiet, or even mostly quiet, that's when the eyes and ears of the heart open, and we're in a new state. The student, I believe, at the beginning of class and at the end of class, it's almost like a different person. This is why sometimes when teachers read a poem at the end of class, like a poem by Rumi is very popular, although he was not a yogi, he was a Sufi. But a lot of yogis didn't write as well as Rumi. So a lot of yoga teachers will read Rumi and people will just cry and cry. They'll come up and say, what is that? I must have that. Had you read that at the beginning of class, some of them would have been sitting there like this and thinking, can we just do some chaturangas already? I'm not losing any weight reading, listening to this. But at the end of the class, tears are flowing. And music, those of you who play music in class, what was that music you played at the end of the class? It doesn't matter what music you play at the end of the class, as long as it's kind of beautiful. It's the most beautiful music they've ever heard. Because we're in a new state. We really are. The heart is uncovered. The armor is off. And we're more in our pure state. So we hear music at a deeper level. We hear poetry where we wouldn't hear it otherwise. And this is the biggest opportunity we have as yoga teachers. This moment when the student is uncovered and the ears are open, the ears of the heart. This is when we can say things that will sink deeply into the heart center. And I don't mean make a speech or give a sermon. Simple. Example, like what I did with you at the beginning of this talk, the gratitude meditation. That wasn't a sermon. Someone of any religion could have heard that and had no problem with it. They wouldn't have pushed an atheist out of the room either. So I'm not asking you to think of any religious dogma or even any religious symbols. I let you choose what or who to look at. You chose the person who had the biggest impact in your life. Each one of us chose that. The heart fills with gratitude, and we change. And this was done not at the end of the class. This was done after dinner. Had we all practiced together for 90 minutes, it would have had even more of an impact. So this is an example of a small exercise that you can do with your students. I call it throwing a pebble into the pond. The pebble is your idea. The pond is their heart center. If you toss a pebble into a pond, it makes ripples. It has an impact. But if you do this exercise where you ask the student to think of someone or something, they convert the pebble into a big stone. It has more of an impact. For example, I love my wife, so I think of her. I don't say, okay everyone, close your eyes and think of my wife. That wouldn't work for most of you. First of all, you don't know her, so it's just a person. Yeah. You have to think of someone that you love, that hasn't had an impact on you, right? I think religion is kind of the same way. It's like each one of us has our own portal, our own symbols, our own person that opens our heart center. That'd be funny. I'm going to try that sometime. Everyone close your eyes and think of my life. So, Pebble in the pond. I want to give you an example of this. Another one besides gratitude is forgiveness. Forgiveness is a fantastic exercise. One of the most important exercises we can do every day. Raise your hand if you've never been angry before. I raised my hand, but I was just giving an example. Forgiveness is one of the most important tools we have. So sometimes at the end of class, what I'll do is I'll say, please close your eyes, sit up straight. And it's this simple. Please close your eyes. Breathe deeply. And visualize someone that you feel has hurt you. Someone that you've been carrying anger toward for some time. Not necessarily the biggest wound of your life, just someone. And now, consider the possibility of forgiving that person. Please open your eyes. We're not actually going to do it. We're going to save this one for later. This one gets people really emotional. I just wanted you to hear it with your eyes closed so you understand how simple it was. I said 4 sentences. I did this for a class once when I was teaching in Los Angeles. I said almost that exact